what can you do as a storyteller? Tell your story with a lot of sensitivity. You are telling a story, but after the story has been told, how is it going to affect the person whose story has been told? Right. That's very important.
Hello and welcome to Up Close and Personal Season 2 here at InvokED Studio, where we dive deep into the heart of leadership, education equity and collective action. I'm your host Aishwarya, and today we have with us Rekha Balakrishnan, a seasoned journalist with over 25 years of experience across diverse domains such as business, information technology, entertainment, gender issues and social impact. She writes at the intersection of gender, women's empowerment, social enterprise, and impact. Her extensive body of work reflects a deep commitment to storytelling that drives change. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us today, Rekha.
Thank you so much, Aishwarya, for having me.
It's great. Now that we've set the stage, let's begin. My first question to you is, what inspired you to become a journalist?
Okay, I'll have to think and go way long back. I think growing up, it was my father who instilled in me a love for news, So I still remember when we were young, we were not supposed to even let a pin drop, as they say, when the 9 o'clock radio news was going on in the night. So we had to listen in rapt attention with my father as early as maybe when we were 4-5 years ago. Apart from that, we had 2 newspapers that came home, and my father ensured that we read the op-ed every day. So we had to read the opinion pieces every day and discuss. So there was a lot of discussion at home, whether it was politics, whether it was news, whether it was breaking news, and a lot happened in the 80s and 90s, right? While I was growing up, a lot of socio-political happenings took place, and that's how I was drawn to the world of news. And it was a given that by the time I was in the 6th or 7th standard, that in those days I wanted to be a reporter. Nice. That's how it happened.
That's very inspiring. I'm sure that's how our parents also influence us in taking up
absolutely.
The jobs that we do, right? We've also seen you working a lot around issues related to gender. Any specific reason that gender is so close to your heart?
See, I was born in the mid-70s and growing up in the 80s, though I grew up in quite a progressive and liberal family, my father himself was a postgraduate, and he ensured that education was the means to an informed and good life. But what I saw around me, though I lived in progressive Kerala, I grew up in progressive Kerala, those shackles of patriarchy, don't go out of the house after 6:30, don't sit cross-legged, as simple as that, don't sit cross-legged in front of elders, don't raise your voice, speak only when you're spoken to. That from people around me, maybe not much at home, but people around me, kept me questioning why. Why is there a distinction when it comes to gender? So as I grew up, we were all, my circle of friends, we were all very well-read. We read the classics, we read modern literature, we read everything we could lay our hands on. This is long before the internet. Your only source was the lending library or your school and college library. So these group of friends, we held forth on subjects from communism. I come from communist Kerala. So from communism to capitalism to socialism to, whatever we could discuss, we did. And that, made me question a lot of beliefs starting from home. So whether it's segregation during your periods, people don't think it to be huge. Or right. When you see a film like Mrs. which just came out, that's when a lot of people told me, does such a thing happen? So I said, it happened a long time ago, it still happens now. So when you start questioning and when you start seeking answers to these questions, okay, what is rooted in science, what is not, what is superstition, and how can you not advise, how can you educate people about gender equality, and later as you grew up, gender equity, that made me focus more towards women's issues. See, by women's issues, I'm not saying that I'm going to stand outside and protest against something. Okay, the right to protest is a right for everyone. Maybe it's not for me. But for me, it came as shaping a narrative. How do I shape a narrative? I shape it through words. And how do I do that? Speak to more people, speak to more women, get informed opinions. And that's how my foray into writing about women. And it's not just about issues, right? When you speak about women, it's not just about their challenges, it's about how they have broken the shackles of patriarchy. How, it might be a simple thing like just convincing your parents to let you study in a different city after school.
Right.
Which may be simple now, but it was an uphill task in those times. So, and then traveling on your own for work and other things, so many other things. And then listening to women, speak about their little successes, their small successes. And it's not just like I wrote in my LinkedIn post today. I wrote about my house help. She may not be very literate, but she's worked for the past 50 years. And she's taught me a lot about resilience, tenacity, and to be proud of what I am doing. She doesn't understand my work, but she understands that I work,
right,
which is very important to me.
Right, that was very insightful, and I think it's very important that we have people talking about patriarchy, and it surprises me till date how people do not see patriarchy. So I think we need more people like you who keep writing about gender issues, keep writing about things that empower women like us, that okay, we are seen and our stories are heard. Right. Thank you so much for that. Moving on and building from here, what does leadership mean to you in context of the work that you do?
See, everyone can be a leader if they're given the agency to become a leader.
Right.
And what does leadership mean? Leadership does not mean, sitting in the boardroom and making decisions. Leadership can be anywhere. You empower your girl child to speak up against whatever's wrong in around her, in school, among her friends. That is leadership.
Right.
Leadership is giving voices to those whose voices have been suppressed.
Right.
That's leadership. For me, leadership is not about being a CEO or a general manager or a managing director. It's about giving people agency to voice their opinions, to form their opinions, and to be able to speak out without fear.
I couldn't agree more. I think as a leader, it's important that you give agency and the ownership of a task or decision making in a very small sense, even if it's that small. But that's how a leader supports.
And also,
their team.
Aishwarya, leadership is not about being a hierarchical. Leadership is carrying others along with you.
Right.
That makes you a good leader.
Right. Absolutely. How do you look at the role of storytelling shaping public perception and driving social change?
See, the role of storytelling, ever since I started journalism until now, I've seen a sea change, right? It's evolved a lot. Now, earlier you used to wait for newspapers to come every day. Hardly were there evening newspapers, afternoon newspapers, maybe in bigger cities like Delhi or Bombay. But then you have to wait for next morning for the news. Then came the broadcast era, you had television and all that. But now we are a mobile first generation. Right. So when you're a mobile first generation, one plus side of it is a lot of people are very informed about what is happening. And because everything works according to an algorithm, right? You see what you want to see. If you click on something first, that's what you get later, right? So how do you shape a narrative for a mobile first generation? Right. Something that inspires them. Something that inspires change in them. Something that motivates them, encourages them to go out and do something. Right. Because at the end of the day, there are a lot of people who are cynical. If I do something, is something really going to happen? Why should I even get into the development sector or the social sector? A lot of things plague the mind of young people. But then if you talk about stories, if you give them stories that are inspiring, if you give them stories where they feel motivated to think and act, I want to be a part of this. That's where storytelling succeeds.
I agree. I think storytelling is a very powerful tool that
Yes.
has actually shaped narratives and also broken a lot of narratives.
And storytelling has to be simple,
Right.
straightforward, empathetic, and humane.
Yes.
My approach is to approach each story with a lot of sensitivity. Anyway, there's a lot of bad things happening in this world. There's a lot of, why don't you put yourself in the other person's shoes? Be empathetic while telling a story. See, clickbait will be where clickbait will be there. You know, there's no two ways of going, trying to, do away with it. But what can you do as a storyteller? Tell your story with a lot of sensitivity. You are telling a story, but after the story has been told, how is it going to affect the person whose story has been told?
Right.
That's very important.
Right. Just like you mentioned your house help story that
Yeah.
you've recently
Yeah.
posted.
Yeah.
Nice. We also believe in collective action, where we are looking at the role of philanthropy, non-profits, the education system, and the media agencies as well to come together and work towards education equity. What are your thoughts around that?
We had a very exhaustive Chopal today, which spoke about the power of agency and empowering communities to collaborate and bring about action. So where storytellers or media can come into the picture is to amplify these good stories.
Right.
Because we need a lot of positive stories, because there's a lot of negativity around. I feel personally there's a lot of negativity around. While again, we can't do away with that kind of negativity, why don't we amplify the positive stories around us? And it has to come from the grassroots level. There are so many unsung heroes, like I said.
Right.
Bring out the stories of unsung heroes. Then they become inspirational, they become aspirational, and they drive an entire generation to do better.
Right, that's a very interesting perspective. And my last question to you is, what is your one hope for the future, the biggest hope that you have?
I have a lot of hope for the future because we all have empathy within us. Maybe we don't use it at the right time, or maybe we are driven by a lot of other factors that has driven out the empathy of us. But deep within, we are all kind, we are all empathetic. And despite everything, despite the naysayers and despite the doomsday theories, this is going to hold every generation together.
That's beautiful. I resonate with your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us here today and sharing your stories and insights with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you to our audience for tuning in. Stay connected, keep the dialogue going. See you in the next episode of Up Close and Personal Season 2.